I thought it would be fun to pop on over and have a natter with Lupin and Poppy. It's always good to be kept in the loop and keep up with the local goings-on. Upon arriving at their cottage, I was greeted with, "We were just talking about you." "Why?" I puzzled. Poppy sat herself down and started. "Our friend Daisy visited the library at Lighthouse Corner and caught a glimpse of a book entitled How to Find and Befriend Gnomes, written by Ivor Penn. However, as she had not got her reading spectacles with her, Daisy did not attempt to open and read the book. She did inquire with the librarian if that was the only copy. The librarian confirmed that it was and whispered, "It's the original hand-written book. It was never printed, but—" Prior to continuing, the librarian looked around to make sure that no one was listening in, then winked and said, "It is part of a series, you know." With that, the librarian returned to her bookkeeping duties. In hushed tones, Lupin suggested that I trot over to the library and read the book. Not knowing where this might lead, I agreed and jogged over to Lighthouse Corner. Making sure that nobody was lurking around the library, I crept in, grabbed the book from a shelf, then sat down and thumbed through the pages. I jotted down a few notes in my scribble pad and read on some more. Speed reading is one of my skills, so I soon finished. If only I had a quick memory which could keep up with my speed reading, I sighed. Scurrying back to Poppy and Lupin, I sprang into their house. Lupin inquired if I'd found the book, and Poppy asked if I'd read it. Nodding my head, I blurted, "Oh, what a fascinating tale! Indeed it was, Shelley-tastic!" I jotted down a few essential points. Shall I read them out? Both Lupin and Poppy encouraged me to continue. Well, you can't find gnomes. Oh no, it is quite impossible for anyone to attempt to do so. Indeed, it is the gnomes who come and seek you. Prior to appearing, the gnomes will first assess your character. If you are worthy of meeting them, person to person, or should that be gnome to person, I wonder? Lupin suggested that it sounded quaint and proper to say gnome to person, and Poppy tutted, "Does it really matter?" I jested, "It might well do if you are a gnome assessing a person. It could be considered extremely rude to call a gnome a person, you know. Besides, we are trying to make friends with them." Poppy poured me a cup of dandelion tea. I paused to take a sip before continuing. Like most creatures, gnomes have their likes and dislikes. I have prepared a list of such for you both to read at your leisure. But I must stress that they love early morning sunshine and late night moonshine. Lupin quizzed. What kind of people do they like? Well, jolly souls, folk who enjoy singing, happy chappies, people who see the beauty of nature, animal lovers, those sorts, I smiled. Gosh, they sound like our kind of people, gnomes, the sort of chaps you make friends with, gushed Lupin. Thinking out loud, Poppy uttered, I wonder if I should bake one of my carrot and seed cakes for them to nibble on. Don't worry, Poppy. If no gnomes find us, I'm sure Lupin and I would love to tuck into your cake. I laughed. Poppy reassured us that the cake was baked from healthy ingredients only. I suggested that we venture outside into L&P's garden. On their lawn, I spied several ornamental gnomes. Look, there you are. Are they ornaments or proper gnomes observing us? Taken aback, Poppy whispered, "Ooh." In a flash, a jot of inspiration popped into my head, so I opened my mouth to let it pop out to share it with L&P. Gnomes relish dancing to music, you know. Perhaps if we la and a tune, any real gnomes present in the garden will dance and jig along, eh? Lupin suggested clapping hands might help, but Poppy thought that was going a wee bit too far. To get the music started, I stood up straight and counted a 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. La 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 la. Come on, everybody! La 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 la. Don't be shy! La 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 la. Lupin peered out over her garden and sighed. All that music and not one gnome is dancing. Poppy laughed. It's because you two were la-lying out of tune. I suggested that Poppy la-la'd instead of humming. At least we tried, and perhaps there are no real gnomes in our garden, smiled Lupin. Maybe you're right, and maybe you're wrong, Lupin, but I'm sure I just saw one of the gnomes move ever so slightly, I whispered. Which one? Which one? Demanded Lupin. I bet it was that cheeky gnome over by the fountain. I'm sure he fidgets when he thinks no one is looking, added Poppy. Is it that one, Milo? The one under the apple tree? Oh, please tell, pleaded Lupin. I can't be certain, but... Pausing to make sure P and L were paying attention, I continued. If Poppy takes a feather, we could approach each and every one of the gnomes, while Poppy tickles the gnome under its nose with the feather. Lupin and I will observe to see if it sneezes. What say you two, eh? I say, Milo, what a wonderful plan. Let's get cracking. Poppy, there are several feathers in my box of treasures if you fetch one. Milo and I will take up our positions to watch for any gnome who achooes, instructed Lupin. Being gnomes, maybe they oocha instead of achoo, I suggested. Should we sing Ring-a-Ring-a-Roses if a gnome sneezes? Quizzed Poppy. If you want to, why not? I laughed. Armed with a feather, Poppy crept up to the first gnome and tickled its nose. We waited and waited, but didn't hear a thing. Onwards, Poppy glided to the next gnome. Just as she was about to move her feather, we heard a... coming from behind us. We looked at one another in astonishment till Lupin giggled. Don't look at me, I didn't do it, Poppy retorted. And it certainly wasn't me, I blurted, and it wasn't me. Achoo or no achoo, the gnomes haven't appeared to move, so let's try something different, eh? I suggested. Like what? Quizzed Lupin. Will it involve playing a game? I do so like playing a game of bridge, you know. It's such fun to walk across a bridge when the music is playing and making sure you are off the bridge when the music stops, added Poppy. Well, I thought that we might tell a story, I proposed. And how will that help, eh? Frowned Lupin. Aha! I beamed. We could see which gnomes are listening. Can you actually do that? Puzzled Poppy. I looked at Poppy and quizzed. Do what? Why, see if someone is listening, of course. She laughed. Maybe it would help if their ears twitched while they were listening, suggested Lupin. Well, Milo, do they twitch? Shouted Poppy. Oh, how would I know? I'm neither an expert on gnomes' ears nor twitching, I sighed. Lupin suggested that we all go back inside the house so that we could think in comfort. I always think better when I am comfy, I laughed. Once inside L&P's house, I walked up and down the room, pausing only to think. Poppy sat in a chair and closed her eyes, and Lupin cleaned her spectacles and murmured, "Oh, I must have clean glasses if I want to think clearly." I wandered over to the window and peered out over the garden. "Quick, quick, come and see what I can't see," Lupin suggested. "Surely you mean come and look what I can see, don't you?" No. The fact of the matter is, I can't see any gnomes. They have skedaddled, vamoosed into fresh air, gone, zipped off, disappeared. I gasped. Joining me at the window, L&P gasped. "You are quite correct, Milo. They have helter-skeltered out of the garden. Where have all the gnomes gone?" We dashed outside to take a closer look, searching under bushes, up trees, behind plants, but not one gnome was to be seen. In hushed tones, Poppy whispered, "I think the gnomes in the garden were real gnomes looking at us. I do hope they come back soon. The garden looks quite lonely without them." Lupin and I nodded our heads in agreement. We soon cheered up when Poppy beamed, "Who would like another carrot bun?"